the spelling. That way I've got it on.
All right. My name is Karnig Thomasian, Karnig, Thomasian, Thomasian.
Is that Armenian?
You got it.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about your background. Which bomb group, which bomb squadron, how many missions before you ended
All right. I was in the 20th Air Force, 40th Bomb Group, 45th Bomb Squadron, based in Chikulia, India. We were the first group of B-29s to be put into combat. And primarily, we were there to test the B-29s and send a message to Japan that you are going to be bombed. These missions were not tremendously successful in the destructive manner, but they were very successful in the psychological aspect of it for the Japanese. And so when they finally went to the Marianas and Tinian and so on, that's when the payoff came in.
Now, did you
big time?
Did you fly out of Tinian or Saipan or any
No,
of those, or
no.
always out of India?
No, always out of India and China.
Okay.
We had 4 forward bases in China, and these bases were built by General Chiang Kai-shek, and 300,000 Chinese, everything by hand, hammered rocks, everything, because they were built on patties, rice paddies. So they had to put a very deep rock base. And I recently wrote a book, and some guy read it, and he said, you know, I was out there. I was supervising those landing strips. I said, really? I wish I'd known you before I wrote the book. I could have added your input to it. But anyway, so he said, yeah, we used to shove in boulders at first to take up the muck and all that, and then gradually got to smaller and smaller rocks. I said, how did? By all the multitude of people that we had working with hand tools, no major equipment.
Did you have an appreciation for that at the time? In other words, were you so focused?
Not really.
Yeah.
In fact, I didn't even know about it. Yeah. Very honestly.
You get there, the strip is there.
Yeah, the strip is there. Hey, we can landing.
That's right. What was your crew position?
Left gunner.
Okay.
Electrical specialist.
How many?
We each of us, when we went over there weren't ground crews, and each of us had gone through multitude of schools. We went to school for 2 years, for God's sakes. Electrical specialist, gunnery school, engine mechanic, and then flight engineer school, which I flunked out because the math was just bouncing off the back wall. And I was competing with a couple of guys that are outstanding out there. They were engineers in civilian life. Right. I was competing with them. Yeah. Unreal. Well, that's the military way. Anyway. So then we formed crews in Clovis, New Mexico. And in Clovis, New Mexico, we trained in B-17s because there were no B-29s available. So the only virtue of training there was to get flight time, and the gunners just sit in the back and horse around. And the pilot, navigator, bombardier, radio operator, and flight engineer, they got to work together and, you know, generally see if their gears go together properly. Until finally we got the call to go to Wichita, Kansas, Harrington Field, Kansas. And there we picked up our brand new B-29, spanking new, shiny, beautiful. Oh man, it was beautiful. And each of us went to our specialties and checked out everything and all that. And we spent about 8-10 hours flight time and to break it in and feel how it is, and that's all the time we had on this plane.
Before they send you over?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Now, before you sent it over, you say, oh, geez, 29 ought to make it in a day and a half, right? Took us, how many months? Almost 2 months to go overseas for various reasons. One, we went down to Florida. From Florida, we went to Borinquen Field, Puerto Rico. From Borinquen Field, we went to Belém, Brazil. Belém, Brazil, we got a leak in a gas tank. And you can buy them in any superstore there, right? Wrong. So we had to wait for it to be shipped from the States, which took about 3 weeks, and then install it and everything, rip the other one out. Meantime, we couldn't do anything but go swim in the beach. That's all. We weren't allowed to go into the city and all that because everything was hush-hush.
Let me ask you a question about that point.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people say, hey, going swimming on the beach is better than getting shot at. Was that what you were thinking, or was it, no, you know, we want to get into action here? Do you remember what you were thinking at that point?
Very honestly, no.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. I could fabricate something.
No, I don't want any fabrication.
No. I mean, we're disappointed we weren't going, but
yeah.
hey, because we were charged up. We never felt so healthy. I remember that as being a very, very high thing. I have a picture that I'm going to show the people, and at that time, I never felt so healthy and vibrant and go-go as I'm sure everybody at one time or another has felt that.
Well, as he was
sure.
saying, you guys were invincible, right?
Yeah, we were invincible. Nothing could happen. Well, we got finally our tank, and then we went overseas to Accra off the African coast. From Accra, we went to Khartoum, Egyptian Sudan. At this point, we had to wait there a couple of weeks because of the monsoons. And so all we did is sit around, watch movies, play cards. And I don't know, you got time for a tiny little script?
Yeah, I do.
Funny, it's an odd thing.
We love stuff
All right.
like that, yeah.
So you had little bearers, you know, the natives, they take care of our room, they clean up things and all that. And we were playing cards, and we saw this one little kid, he came over, and he said, hey, come here, play with, no, sir. And, no, play with our money. And we gave him our money, and he played somewhat. But right away, his father came in with all the white sheets and everything. He grabbed the kid by the ear and took him out and belabored him with, I don't know what he was talking. And this is part of what we should have been indoctrinated about, the cultures that we're going to face. And he came back and told us, Sahibs, no gamble, you know, whatever. I don't remember how he said it, but he intimated to us that this is against their religion to gamble. This is not a small thing. This is a very important thing. And I felt it then, even though I feel it now just as much as I did then. I felt very bad. And this was a sweet kid. So 2 days later, we were going to go off. We finally got word to go off. This kid comes up like Tom Sawyer with a little bag at the end of a string and a stick, and he wanted to come with us. I'm telling you, it'd break your heart. And I said, look, we're going to war. We can't take you. We're not going to the United States. And he said, but Sahib, I clean your things. I said, why would you want to come to America? He says, Sahib, I know you are white, and now you are brown. Because when I'm in the sun a long time, I'm Armenian descent, and we get dark pretty dark when we're really out in the sun. And he thought, this is a simple child's mind. He said, now when I go to America, I will be white. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. It was very touchy. Anyway, so the next day we were taking off, and there he was with his bag, and on the tarmac, you know, And we said our goodbyes. He hugged. And I remember seeing him from my blister. I said, you know, why? And there he was. I wonder what happened to him, you know.
Wow.
So
Oh, I'm glad
these are some of the things that you see.
Well, see, that's the thing. That is where we part company with some people.
Yeah.
Some people, when they want to do documentaries, all they want to know about is how many rivets there were on a B-29.
Yeah, no.
And
no.
there's a whole...
There's a lot of other things.
Yeah, there's a lot of other things that go into sending men to war and,
Sure.
and what the experience is like. How many missions did you fly before you were shot
3.
down?
We went over the hump 3 other times because we ferried gas over the hump. In order to do a mission to Japan, we would have to ferry gas for weeks for the whole, you know, armada of planes that would go. And they were stripped down B-24s, gas tanks. You light a match, forget it, you know. There was no armament, no gunners. The gunners didn't go on those missions. So every time they'd go, the radio operator would go, the flight engineer, not the bombardier, but the navigator and pilot, co-pilot. So when our radio operator used to go, hey, Brooksy, you're going? Yeah, I'll see you guys. Wait a minute. We grab him, lay him down on the ground, get his wallet, and get his, what would you call those things? Those, oh, darn it. It's not a credit card, it's...
like ration cards?
Ration cards, that's it. His ration card for things, you know, cigarettes, things like that. So we'll give it to you when you come back. You know, it was our sick humor.
Yes.
But, I mean, we loved the guy, you know. It was just to keep the thing going.
Well,
And
because if you go
he'd
down,
come back, that's the first thing. He would say, hi, guys. No, where's my ration card? So that's the way that went. And then we'd spend a month doing that, and then we'd go back to the base. And next mission, one was down to Bangkok. We did that once. And then we went to Mukden, Manchuria. On December 8th, we were supposed to bomb Manchuria. I'm sorry, not Mukden, Manchuria. It was Omura in Japan. And 2 days we stayed there, and it was cloud covered, so they decided to go to Mukden, Manchuria. And so we finally went to Mukden, Manchuria, and we had one engine blown out, and another guy outfit had another engine blown out, and we were toying with the idea of, not we, all of us, it was the officers up front, going to Russia, and you know, because otherwise you're going to be so.
It worked for some of the Doolittle guys went to Russia, at least one of the planes.
Yeah. Well, you didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
And so we voted no, so we hobbled back and we made it. And the very next mission was the fateful mission, and that was a week later. Not quite a week later. We went on the 8th, 9th, 10th. So the 13th, we got orders to, on the 14th, we would do a mission to bomb a bridge in Bangkok. And in order to bomb the bridge, you needed 1,000-pounders and 500-pound, just 1,000-pounders with no fuses. Our commander, our illustrious, I don't care, Colonel Blanchard of the 40th Bomb Group, commander, made the ultimate decision to add 500-pounders, one on top of the other, mixed in with the 1,000. Why? Because this greedy bastard wanted to get his bomb tonnage up to a point where LeMay will give him the honor of being the commander that had the most bomb tonnage in the target. This guy was sick with ambition, and Colonel Tibbets verified all this stuff, incidentally. I had a big talk with him about that. And his wife said, geez, you're being recorded. He said, that's all right. He asked me a question. I'll give him the straight answer. The guy was a bummer.
Well, that's all we want is,
And,
truth is the truth.
That's it. So anyway, so we went on the mission. And as fate would have it, there was cloud cover over Bangkok, and we couldn't bomb it. So secondary target was Rangoon marshalling yards, and we went over there, dropped the bombs. Moment later, the whole sky blew up. 4 of our planes went right down over the target. 1 disintegrated, and only 1 of 11 ships got back to the base. All the others went on secondary British, airfields. So for this guy's ego, 29 men were captured, 18 men were killed, and 4 was destroyed beyond recognition, and some of the others couldn't be repaired as well. Yeah, and I looked up his record at West Point. Not one iota of information of that mission, not one sentence, not one word, nothing, zippo. So anyway, he died when he was 52 or something like that. God knew the right way to do that one.
Is that the same Blanchard that was in Roswell, New Mexico?
Perhaps.
No, I'm trying to think. That wouldn't have been because he was a colonel, I think.
Well, he was a colonel.
But it would have been a B-29 outfit, huh?
Yeah, he was a
Donald
colonel.
Blanchard, is that?
No. Butch Blanchard.
I think it is the same.
Maybe it's the same one. Yeah.
Yeah, that whole Roswell
Big,
business.
tall fellow.
Yeah.
He's not to be mixed up with the West Point fullback or whatever.
Yeah, I think he won.
That was somebody else.
Well, tell me this. What else? You guys, I guess, got hit by flak. What else?
Nothing. The bombs hit each other, just like the bomb. We didn't know that. Just like the head bombardier had predicted, because a bomb fragment had hit on the lead plane. He got the only one that got back. The lead plane, the flight engineer, I forget right now. I believe the flight engineer got killed by a bomb fragment going through him. And that bomb fragment disappeared. So, it's all...
it's basically a chain reaction then.
Oh, yeah. And it just... we've hit the target. Many bombs hit the target, demolished it. Yeah. But the point is that at what cost,
Well, let's talk about your cost. Walk me through what happens from the time there's this huge explosion.
Well,
you're no longer so invincible.
No, definitely not. I thought up to that moment we were invincible. I couldn't believe this plane I'm in is going down. It's so far-fetched to me. It's hard to explain. But anyway, I had to get out. We were in a flat spin going around, and my real close buddy was right on top of me. His feet were on my shoulders. So he had to get down. My right gunner was climbing out of his position, and I had to get out. And we had already lost pressurization because the B-29 was pressurized. And so the door swung open. I looked out, and I'm seeing the ground's going around in circles, and we're going down like this, and flames and everything. I got to get out of here. But nobody's talking. In the movies, everybody's talking, hey, come on, get your ass out of here. Nothing. I suppose it was because it was such an incredible shock. We were all in shock. And what had happened was the plane got blown like this, flipped over, and then went into a spin. That's what the guy in the plane next to us told us what he saw. We didn't know that at the time. And so anyway, I jumped. Oh, yeah. I had my chest buckle off, and because I breathe easier. It was very hot, the sun blasting in the windows. And I was always kind of get a little sick in the stomach from flying. And so I had to buckle it, and my hand was wounded and bleeding, and I couldn't buckle the damn thing. So finally, I decided, well, geez, I'll just hold my arms in. Stupid me. Nobody told me what a fantastic jolt that is when it comes open. I never practiced it. Nobody told me anything. So I jumped, and the thing ripped out past my shoulders, and they ache to this day. And my leg straps hung on and bound up, and they held on to me. And so there I was, upside down, hanging by nothing. So I regained my equilibrium, and I climbed up onto my pants first, because I was upside down. Anyway, I climbed up into at least one of the straps, and that's how I went down. And meantime, when we got down, they were shooting at us, and there was a V like this in the strap. A strap is about that wide, main strap, and there was a V like that. So one of the guys must have hit a bullet there. So thank goodness he didn't. I would have candled down, and we wouldn't be talking. So I finally landed, and as I landed, I saw we were on the other side of the river. Rangoon was on the right side, we were on the left side, all rice paddies. I landed just off a rice paddy, and I got everything off, got the first aid kit, and ran away from the city. I'm running towards the ocean, which is about 100 miles. I'm going to make it. Caucasian in this, I mean, the whole thing is so ridiculous. It's just preposterous. But that's all I could do. I couldn't think of anything else. And before you know it, the Burmese had surrounded me with pitchforks and knives and everything else they could get their hands on. And finally, I saw my enemy face to face. The Japs came in and took control, tied my hands behind me, and got my .45 from inside my leather jacket. And off they marched me towards the river, and then there I saw my co-pilot, and we kind of addressed each other to see how we were, and they got him up, and they put us on a little, I don't know what you call a little trawler, a little boat, and there were guys on there with cameras, like we'd have our news guys here. Yeah, same thing, Japanese news guys. I love to get that footage. I would love it. I'd kill to get that footage. And I'm trying to find out some Japanese people that do it. Anyway, so they got us over there, put us in a little truck, drove us 2 blocks to a building which was New Laws Courts. And we went in there, and they took us down into the dungeons, and there were these cells, these monstrous cells with teak wood, 4x4 teak wood blocks, 3 inches in between, and that was, instead of iron gates, that's what they used, with a little door on the bottom, so you take your shoes off, and then you go inside. And they made it very clear, hey, once you're in, if there's a Japanese soldier come by, anybody come by, you are at attention already. Otherwise, so after having one...
What do you mean by...
they come in and beat you. And then so, all right, I learned fast. I'm a fast learner. And I was at attention. And then finally, shortly thereafter, they didn't give us any water. I was thirsty as anything by this time, dehydrated. And they got us up into an interrogation, one at a time. And there, it's a whole thing. How far do you want me to go on this?
Well,
You know.
What here's the deal. I'll leave it up to you because we've got limited time, but I don't like stopping a guy, so I'll leave it up to you what you think is most important. How's that?
Well, all right. Pardon?
Are we liberated?
Yeah. Well, that jumps the part about the interrogations. And the interrogations is where we found out what the cultural difference was between the Japanese and ourselves.
Tell me about that.
It's totally different. And it was supported later on when we saw a Japanese officer beating his own soldier. I mean, I thought he was going to kill him. With the teakwood clubs. This is what they use. So we went into, they sat me down on the floor, and they had like a little card table, or I don't know, play simple table. And one guy sat there, he was the interrogator, but didn't speak English. And this guy was the interpreter, and he took notes and asked me things in English, or whatever he's asking. So I just sat there, and he said, "What's your name?" I gave my name. I spelled it. Oh, where you come from? I said, I can't tell you. He said, you tell me, or you blah, 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 you know. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't tell you. We know everything about you. Well, if you know everything, then why are you asking me? And this went on. And each time he got angrier and angrier because I wasn't telling him anything. And you got to also know, take into this thing, it sounds like, oh, gee, I'm doing a brave thing. I'm not doing a brave thing. I'm still in shock, and I don't realize how stupid this thing is. I could fabricate something. It'd be better than being so stubborn about this issue. And we all learned this about ourselves. And so finally, after he said, you have to tell me, he said, you have girlfriend at home? I said, no, I didn't. Well, maybe we will tell you, where do you live? I said, I can't tell you. Why? Just tell us. We will notify your parents that you are all right. I said, no, you won't. And I said, I'm not going to tell you anything. And because you probably do something to them, and that's is not acceptable to me, or words to that effect. Yeah. And so he got up. He was pissed now. So he got his sandals off. They all had sandals. And he kept beating me, and I got up finally. I still had my leather jacket off. That wasn't good enough. He grabbed a teakwood club from one of the guards that was still there, and he started hitting me. And fortunately, I was able to ride with some of the punches. Fortunately, also, he didn't aim for my head. He probably didn't want to kill me. So, you know, anything could have happened. I was duck soup there. So he finally stopped, realizing that this was the end. Then he got pissed off, and he sat down and had me sit down. Then he ordered the guard to take me back to the cell. So that was the end of that session. And that night, I didn't get anything. And I asked for water. No water. So I stayed at detention. And then I was getting sleepy at night. And there was only one light bulb hanging from a wire, you know. And finally he said, finally, as it got later and later, I got tighter and tighter, and finally I must have just melted to the floor, because the next morning I woke up, I was on the floor, and they probably realized, oh, he'd gone as far as he can go. And so the odd thing is, next morning they gave me a little bowl of rice, a little hot water called tea, and nothing to eat it with. So I ripped off my CBI patch. I had a leather CBI patch, and I used it to, my hands, but I figured out, I'll rip that off and use it. So that's what I did. So now we're in the second day, and they throw in another guy, Ed Dow. And this guy had very dark eyebrows and dark eyelashes and things. He wasn't Japanese, but I don't know. My mind was really, I'm going nuts. I'm saying, geez, who is this? I don't know. Well, as it turned out, my co-pilot was in the next cell. So I knocked on, when the Jap wasn't around, I knocked on the wall and he knocked, and we could whisper to one another. I said, there's a guy here, Ed Dow. He says, oh yeah? He says, well, I have someone here. Let me ask him. He says, that's his a gunner or something, whatever. Oh, I said, yeah, his name is Ed Trinkner. He had Ed Trinkner. So he verified that he was good, so he was good. So then we compared notes and things, and his ship was knocked down too. And so that day passed. The next day that evening, we were ordered out into a courtyard, all of us, 29 guys. By that time, the third day, they had gotten everybody. And they had us kneel down, and this is the first time I saw the rest of my crew, the ones that had made it. They came through the door, and I said, oh, Tommy's there. They used to call me Tommy then. And so I'm looking around. What's going to happen now? Our hands are tied behind. We're kneeling down. And there are Japanese guards all around. This one Japanese guard, big guy, bare-chested, swinging a samurai sword over his head, putting the fear of the Lord in us. Let me tell you, I thought, and as everybody else thought, we were going to get beheaded. So along comes the commandant and his interpreter, and the interpreter translates, we're going to be shipping you to the Rangoon City Jail as prisoners of war. And the Japs just laughed. They knew exactly what they were doing. They were laughing their heads off. And so anyway, we piled into the trucks and went to the main entrance of the prison. And there we had to sign that we weren't going to try to escape. Who the hell cares? Try to escape. My signing is going to do that? Where am I going to escape to? Forget it, I'm going to stop.
No, my audio was good, so I took my headphones off. How long were you a POW?
6 months, just a little short of 6 months. And when we went into this thing, we went into solitary. They put us into solitary. Now, solitary is one, right? There was so many of us, and there were others there now, before, from British guys. They were bad off. And so they added 29 men. Well, they had to go 2 and 3 and 4 to a cell now. And all that was in a cell was an ammunition box for toilet. And it was about, 5 feet? No, 5 feet. Yeah, 6 feet by 12 feet or 10 feet, and then 12 foot high. That was it. And iron bars and everything. And so there we stayed. And again, we had to be at attention when the guy came through. And this is where we met one of the wonderful guards that was there. Called him Tarzan. He was sadistic. This guy was a son of a bitch from the word go. And one day, he got me out. Thomasian! He called me out. He unlocked the gate. I walked out, and I'm standing there. And he brings up his rifle, and he puts it right here. I saw that rifle. I said, yeah. Okay, do, he says. Okay, though, is a question. Is it okay? I says, okay, though. And he said, okay, though, again. He said, okay, though. Meanwhile, my co-pilot's watching from the side here. He's in the next cell. And he was, anyway. So finally, he pulls the trigger and click. And I almost melted. And here he is smiling and laughing with his gold tooth again. These guys have all gold teeth. And so he shoved me back into the cell. And I said, oh my God, I felt like killing this son of a bitch. But you couldn't possibly do anything. So they calmed me down, and he went off, laughing his head off. And the guys just calmed me down, that's all. And then finally, this went on, and then we had more interrogations like the others, and there were a lot of stupid things that went on. And finally, as the war was starting to turn, a couple of months later, and the British were starting to come down from the north, the song, and they come from Mandalay, you know, don't. And that's sung, and we didn't know, was this true? Was it rumor? You know, how many rumors? You know, in prison you get so many rumors. You live off of rumors, and then you're down. And then you live off another rumor, and then you're down. Well, this one, they shifted us to an empty compound in the compound 8. And I tell you, it doesn't sound like much, but it was fantastic. I mean, now we could go, and we had a latrine, a hole in the ground, whereas before we had to do it in the pot, and someone had to take the pot out, go down and dump it in a trough and gather leaves so you could wipe your butt with it. It was another world. Anyway, so we got into this compound, and there we met everybody, you know, we mingled and so on. And finally, we started to acclimate ourselves, and they wanted volunteers for the cook shack, and I volunteered. I volunteered for anything. Because early on, I realized if I'm going to survive, I've got to be in some kind of shape. Otherwise, I'm not going to make it. Because we saw, and we continued to see guys that just gave up. I don't know what triggers a guy to give up. These were not weaklings. These were not demented fellows or things like. They were normal human beings, wonderful, good soldiers, pilots, and they just gave up, and they just disintegrated, leaned up against the wall, and they said they didn't eat nothing. They're gone.
Well, let me flip it around the other way then, maybe. Maybe it's hard to explain what makes a guy give up, but you didn't give up, so let me ask you, what makes a guy keep going? When he's had to go through all of this,
yeah,
it would be easy to give up. What makes a guy keep going, and what gets him through the tough times?
The only way I can explain it is, I suppose, is your own attitude of life. You know, I'm not going to give up. As long as I'm breathing, I'm not going to give up. And that's what I felt when the guy was hitting me and questioning me, and the guy shot me, you know, supposedly shot me. I said, hey, I got through this. I'm still alive, that son of a bitch. I just get my anger off of being angry at them, you know, and get my motivation. In the meantime, I'd exercise. I'd find things to do. I made a knife there out of an old rusted barrel hoop. That knife had a lot to do with my survival. It sounds crazy, but I got that to such a point that my radio operator found a honing stone on a rafter, and I sharpened that knife to such a point that I could shave them, give them bald haircuts, or just trims if they were going out on a dance that weekend. You know, we'd horse around like this. Oh, you're going out? See, what's her name? Not that we thought about women. I tell you, that was something that was like a void. It just didn't happen.
What did you think of?
We didn't think about women in the sense that you normally think about women. It was weird. We thought of our families, you know, and things like that. But
well, it reminds me of.
I suppose if I was married, I might think differently.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. There's a guy from New York we interviewed. His name's Lou Lovsky.
Oh yeah.
You know Lou?
Oh yeah. Lou loves to talk.
And I think his wife is Dolly. I think.
Oh yeah,
Hang on
right.
1 second.
Molly.
Molly, that's right.
Molly.
You know.
It was food. Even more than medications, because you knew medications, there weren't any. The Japs didn't have them for themselves. All I needed was some sulfur, and my jungle sores would have been filled in, and as it did when we got back. Like in 3 days, it was filled in. I mean, still tender and everything. But God, I said, what a miracle drug. All we needed was a little of this powder. Jesus
well, and there was
Christ.
another guy. It's funny when you were thinking about things, because there's another guy we've interviewed named Hap Halloran. And he was saying that what he would do is, in his mind, he would go back to his house. And he would literally walk through the house, he would go downstairs, make himself a sandwich. And,
I'll tell you. It was
ahead.
Thanksgiving, all right? I'm thinking of Thanksgiving. And I'm sleeping during the daytime. This is, and I'm taking a nap on this concrete floor, and my other guys is there. So I'm thinking, oh boy, dinner time, and Grandma's here, and Mom's there, and Pop's. Oh boy, this is such nice. Hi, Pop. Da, 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 da. And we're talking and talking, and Tommy, oh, Tommy. And wait, yeah, what? The car's coming. Come on, get up. Oh, I got up. And from one moment, the emotional change was incredible. I just made it. He came by, and I just stared right ahead, no eye contact, and that was it. You had to be perfect. And that was close. But the transition, like you say, was incredible. I never forget it. Never forget. I could taste the food, you know, that she cooked. Great Armenian meals. Baklava, yeah, that was dessert, yeah.
I'd say that my sister-in-law's Armenian, so that's why I say that.
Yeah.
But
so that's the kind of thing that happens. All right, so then all these kind of things happened all along the way, until such time that, again, the British were really moving down now, and the Japanese decided they better evacuate the area. So they took all the able-bodied people that could walk, with them. And what they did is throw in a whole bunch of Japanese fatigues with the little caps, dinky caps that they have and everything, and everybody put them on and so on. And you had to decide whether you were going to go with them or stay. So, what's in the back of your mind? What are they going to do if I stay? What are they going to do? The ones that are going to stay, the real sick ones, and this is not only in our compound and the other compounds, the British they had a lot of men, 1,000 men there. And they had a big hospital thing. And Colonel Mackenzie was their surgeon. This man has a star in heaven. He had an opportunity to leave with all the higher muckety-mucks in Corregidor when the Japs came up. He refused. He says, no. Sorry. I've got to be with my... shit. I mean, and he did. He did. He saved so many lives. And one of our men lost an arm, a wrist. He was a radio operator. Monty Montgomery. And the Japs had no medication to give him. They couldn't do anything. It started to get gangrene. They had to cut off. The Japanese were going to try and do it. They had nobody that could do it, and they had nothing to knock them out. They had nothing. And so they implored the commandant to let Dr. Mackenzie do the job. And he finally relented. I can hear the screams today. But he did a magnificent job. He did not get any more infections. God only knows why, because they didn't have bandages and things. And so somehow he got through. And when they got back to the States, they said, boy, whoever did this job really knew what he was doing. And what did he have to do? A saw and some scissors. And,
But Tommy, I want to make
just
sure
phenomenal.
Well, and I want to make sure I understand this. He's doing an amputation, no anesthetic at all.
No anesthetic. The guy he knocked out. You know, he knocked by screaming. He just passed out. And the Japs are all looking. Oh, yeah, also. And the Japs even slapped him when he gave him an injection, the wrong kind of an injection. He's screaming, and he slapped him. Can you imagine? I mean, things going on. I mean, I didn't see this. I'm getting this from the guys that were with him, you know, his teammates, crewmates.
Did you hate the Japanese going in? I mean, based on Pearl Harbor and what you had heard as you went over, because I can hear some anger. There's a whole generation that doesn't understand quite how evil the Japanese were in terms of the rape of Nanking and experimenting on POWs and on and on and on.
Well, I didn't know a lot of that, don't forget.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
But so my point
so
is...
I didn't know. I knew they were the enemy, okay? Yeah. No more than Germany and all that. In fact, I probably knew more about Germany and their annihilation of Jews and everything. That's guy sick in the head. They ought to put a bomb in his mouth. Anyway, but when I realized and saw firsthand what these people were, and you can't take a broad brush, okay? And by a broad brush, I can't say, you can't go and say all Japanese are like this, because I know firsthand they're not. I have Japanese friends even today, and they're good people, good, honest people.
Were there any Japanese that showed you kindness?
One.
Tell me about that.
He was an old fellow. We called him horse face, because he had a kind of a horse face. He was unusual. It was a long face rather than round, and he was an older man. He had to be in his late 40s. I don't know. I assume now. It's hard to tell what I remember now. But he was an older man. And he used to come by, and we used to be at attention, and he'd go by, and he'd go like this. He'd have his gun on his shoulder, and he'd go like this. And I'd relax, relax. And we knew when he was around, we could relax, but we didn't overdo it. We'd still be at attention, but we wouldn't be, you know. He gave us that bit, and then once he came over and he showed a little emblem that he had, one of his military insignias or something, and made in USA. I almost passed. And we chuckled. What were we going to do? We chuckled. He was chuckling, and we chuckled.
Well,
he probably saw the humor in all this.
Well,
you know.
Well, or here's what amazes me, and this is why this is so important for us to do, and why I find it to be fascinating. To say, relax a little bit.
Yeah.
Or to show you this doesn't sound like a big deal.
No, but it is.
Well, that's my point. Is given everything that goes on, little bit can make a big difference. Yeah?
Oh, sure. It showed that there's humanity there. Yeah. And so I decided then, and thinking about it later as well, that these were the cruds that they assigned to this kind of a job. Who else would want it? No different, I might add, to what we have in our own prison systems. These guys are sick in the head, some of them. And look what happened over there in Iraq. Yeah, I think that's horrible.
Sometimes the people who are
You know,
attracted to that are attracted
yeah.
to it for the wrong reasons. Yeah.
It's just, it's just wrong, You either live by your principles or you die by them. That's the way I feel about it. And you cannot have the best, both worlds. You can't do it.
Tell me about liberation.
All right. Liberation came when the British were coming down and we knew, and they had left with the guys. And we were left behind. Unfortunately, they didn't do anything, and they left a very small 3-4 guys to hold the fort while they got away. And then those people went away and left a little note on the door. You are Japanese nightman ship, and some typed up, in bad English. We meet you on future battlefields, da-da-da-da-da. All right, we were free. So we took over the compounds and the whole prison. We went up and down the stairs and got guns and that they left, and hand grenades and things that we found here and there. And we locked the doors because we had the food. We had stores of rice way in the back. We had animals, buffalo and stuff. And the people were starving. They'd kill us for the food, So we bolted all the, it was like a fort. So finally, 2 days later, came a knock on the door. And we opened the door. Jeepers, oh, there's a British fellow there. Big, tall, olive drab uniform, curly black hair, rosy cheeks. He says, hello. I'm something. I don't know what he said, he said something. And we let him in, and he was about 6'4". He towered over us. So healthy, so beautiful. I couldn't get my hands off him, I mean, it was that kind of, and I looked past his head, and I saw the other guys. We were all around him, and how sick they looked. And that's when I first realized how sick we were, I mean, we knew we were sick, but we didn't know we were that sick. Because when we realized we were free, we were running around, we were brandishing the gun and guarding the door, and we went out to try to elicit help to get boats to ferry the guys over the river. If the army came down the other side, they used the little boats. We did all that, So we were, still mobile. Even with the leg, it didn't matter. Nothing mattered anymore, And so we realized that, okay, very soon after that, then within hours, the Gurkhas came. You know anything about Gurkhas?
Just that they worked for the British, I
Right,
guess. They
right.
were, a tribe,
They
I
were a tribe, yeah. They worked and were paid by the British to be in the army. They were fierce fighters. I would not want to fight any of them. Like if you have them just friendly, if you want to see their blade, they'd have to prick your finger. They gotta draw blood. And they took that very seriously. All right. Comes a story where finally we get out. Oh, I forgot to tell you something else. I don't know how important it is.
Well, tell me.
All right.
It sounds important.
All right. While we were preparing to go, the British came over in little airplanes. They dropped these little bombs, and they hit the outer wall. So the British already had put Japs gone on one of the roofs. So they said, geez, I guess they don't believe that. So they got up on another roof and typed the words, extract digit. You got it. Take the butt out of take your finger out of your butt. They understood that. We didn't know what the hell that meant. I mean, the British, they came over, wagged their wings. About an hour and a half, 2 hours later, they came back and dropped parachutes full of big canisters like this of food and medication and all that stuff. And so that's what happened then. So then we got the word that the British trawler was at the docks ready for us to go. And that's when I lost my knife. I could not find my knife. I so wanted that knife because it was such a symbol of so many things I can't even begin to tell you. Anyway, so we got onto the boat with whatever we had. I had my rifle, and I had a ivory cigarette holder, Japanese hand carved, and I had my utensils that I used, and my tin, and my little chess set that was very crudely carved. I mean, if you only me telling you it's a chess set, would you believe it? But we knew what it was. Anyway, so we went and got onto the boat, and we were about ready to leave when we saw a bunch of these Gurkhas. They were running up the road. They were waving, and they had a Japanese, as we later found out, in front of them on a rope, his hands tied behind his head, bandaged, and the two guys behind him had a box they're holding in between them, a carton box. And so, what the hell's that? So we held up, we waited for them. They put him into the brig. They had a brig there. I don't understand why. Why would you have a brig? Anyway, and they did. And then the Gurkhas, smiling with those teeth again, opened the box. They were Japanese ears. They had caught a whole band of them and cut their ears off. Inhumanity to man.
But tell me this, Tommy.
Now these were
when you see
these kids that we saw. Probably it was them, and they were kids. They had fuzz on their face. They weren't. I talked to one in broken English. He talked back to me in clean English. You know, he knew. Then he said, "It's that's right." And he wasn't. He was a simple kid. You know, what was he doing?
At that point,
I felt very bad.
Well, that's what I wanted to know, because
Yeah.
after everything you've gone through, and I don't know, I don't project myself onto this, nor do I judge anybody.
Yeah.
I could understand a man at the one hand looking at those ears and saying, 6 months they've treated me like hell.
If there were Tarzan's ears, I would say fine. I have no problem with that. I mean it. No problem whatsoever.
But your reaction.
There's a limit, you know. There's a limit at what you can handle.
Tell me this. What?
So we went back to the base in Calcutta. They shipped us there. They cleaned us. We had to throw our clothing into the ocean. I kept my leather jacket, though. I squirreled that away.
How much did you weigh when you were released?
About 120.
What did you weigh when you jumped?
About 168, 170. Something like that, you know. I was in good shape.
When you talk with young people these days, two things. It's a twofold question, and it's what we were talking about out there. How much do young people know about World War II?
They know zilch.
Does that bother
They
you?
know, sure it bothers me. It bothers me. I get very angry at our education system that teaches them more about Civil War than about these wars that were so fundamental in our recent world involvement. To understand what's going on, to understand why Japan does this and so-and-so does that, why Iran does what it does, why does China, that's another thing in the future. It's going to, we're trying to play footsies with them now. They're going to kick us in the ass, I guarantee you. I guarantee you. Like the old saying, when they were beating the Japanese, they were killing 1,000 Japanese, and the Japanese were killing, I don't know, 2,500 Chinese. They say pretty soon no more Japanese. That's their philosophy. Don't you ever forget it. And I don't care.
Well, I'm very concerned about that.
I am too.
Tell me, what is the reaction from young people when they hear you or other men from this greatest generation talk?
Well, they're very attentive. Number one, they didn't know a lot of these things. The innocent questions that come up will blow your mind, and a lot of the ones that you brought up yourself. And the main thing is that they are receptive to us. They call us heroes. I said, we're not heroes. We're survivors. Heroes are something else. They died. They did something. We're survivors. We survived because there was nothing else to do. And so let's get that straight right from the get-go. And we stress that ourselves. And the other things that they look at, and we try to tell them, is to respect themselves above all else. That doesn't mean, that means respect their mind, their body, their whole soul. Respect them and respect your counterparts. Because as I'm going to tell them now, later on, that they're going to be the ones that are going to watch your backside. And you're going to watch their backside. Whether it's he or she, it doesn't matter. So you'd better learn to respect and not get all the poisons of the world just for a few kicks that you're going to have. The kicks will go, and you'll never remember them, and your body is going to deteriorate into something you don't even want to contemplate. So that's basically what it is. But it's, it's tough to get the message really across because they think like we thought, we're invincible. And that's a tough thing to get across, right? I don't know how, I don't know.
About drugs, they say, well,
yeah,
it can hurt me a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll just do it for a little while.
Yeah.